DSPN, the Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
DSPN, well, what a special privilege this is. I always love talking to this man. He's one of my favourite New Zealand cricketers of ever, Lutaru Ross Taylor. Let me give you some stats here, people. 112 test matches, 236 ODIs, 102 T20s. The very first man on the planet to play a century at international level across all three formats. Scored almost 20,000 runs for New Zealand. And if you didn't know, Ross has been happily ensconced up in Brisbane over the Big Bash League, part of the coaching staff there, and very generously joins us from the airport en route to Melbourne. G'day, mate. How are you?
Thanks for having me. Happy New Year.
And you. So the Big Bash League for 24-25. Whereabouts is your team at the moment? I looked at the points table and I thought you're not making the semis, are you?
Yeah, we need a few results to go our way. We had a tight loss off the last ball against Hobart Hurricanes last night. They top of the table. So now we're heading to Melbourne to play the Renegades tomorrow afternoon. And we need the Hurricanes to beat the Stars. So if we win and the Hurricanes beat the Stars, then I think we sneak into a fourth place, which it's never a good position to be in when you need other results to go your way. But hopefully we can do that.
What is the likelihood of that happening? I mean, they're not a bad side, Hobart, Tasmania.
Yeah, I think six it's a Sydney derby tomorrow, and if the Sixers win against the Thunder tomorrow, then I think the Hurricanes need to win to secure top spot. So hopefully all those permutations to work in our favour. We haven't played as well as we would have liked. Obviously, a few injuries and teams, players coming and going, but it was good last night to have Slumberstein and Usman Khawaja in the team. I think they both played very well, and just when you bring that international experience back into the side, it was good to have them and just that presence and experience.
High scoring game too, both sides clipping over 200, mate, so it would have been fun for the fans.
Yeah, I mean, from a batting point of view, it was nice. We struggled a little bit, but it was a good wicket. Full house. Yes, and I think, when 200 plays 200, you've got to tip your hat and be happy from that.
Ross, so exactly what is your role? I'm sure it's not you're standing next to the batsman explaining technique and that. So these days when you are a cricket coach and you're part of the setup, what exactly do you do?
Yeah, so batting coach, assistant coach. In the franchise system, it's tough to really make your mark. It's about trying to get to know the players as quick as possible, but it's just about probably throwing balls, talking to them about strategies and how they go about it. Such a short tournament, I think where the coaching and the technique stuff comes into it, it's more before the tournament and leading into it. But as you're going through a tournament of 4 to 5 weeks, it's just passing on the experience and telling the players, and trying to just keep them upbeat. And 2023, especially if you're batting in the middle water, can be a pretty daunting place to be batting. So, just trying to pump their tyres, pass on their knowledge to the captain and the coach. And, as you said, played a lot of cricket, try and just see where the game is and be one step ahead of the opposition.
We all know it's such a cruel game, and, I was told something last year which has just stuck with me, resonated with me, that it's a game of mostly failure, that you kind of measure yourself in all the things that go wrong, and yet I suppose as fans we just exult in all the things that go right. So when a player is in, well, can there be such a thing as a slump as far as a T20 comp goes, or is it just you have a bad game and you go, okay, I've got to wipe the slate with that one and just look immediately forward? Is that all you can do?
I think it's Bobby Choi. Yes and no. I think obviously you go with the experience and you'll back them a little bit longer than someone who hasn't had the experience. But when you've got quality sitting on the sideline and you aren't playing, it's no different to any team. You're going to have to make the hard calls, and I think we're probably going to have to make a couple of calls in this next match with guys. Obviously, you want to give them a bit of rope. Colin Munro's in our team. He hurt his finger in the Adelaide game and was out for the last game, but he comes in. But yeah, when you try and give them as much rope as possible, but at the same time, when you're in a must-win situation, You got to make a call, and hopefully the guy that comes in has been training hard and can take his opportunity.
Is it one of those kind of competitions where, it's kind of a bit like the NBA playoffs or the play-in tournament? You've just got to get yourself in a position where you are playing finals and then see what happens then, because form is a daily thing?
Very much so, at least. Just the way the playoff structure works, it is tough if you're at 3 and 4, but it still doesn't mean that you can't win the tournament. And that's all we've been talking about. If we can sneak into the top 4, then you never know. I think we've got enough experience and class in this team that if we do make the top 4, and a lot of teams, Australia are heading to Sri Lanka for the Test match series. So I think we lose a couple of players, but we don't lose as many as other teams that are in the playoffs. So if we can get there first and foremost, we do give ourselves a chance. It will be tough from 3 or 4, but it can be done.
How big or not is the home advantage in Big Bash League cricket?
I think all the players, there is a little bit of mixing when it comes to franchise and state cricket. So everyone knows the conditions really well. The home advantage and the crowd support. We had 30,000 streaming supporters last night, which helped us get to obviously losing off the last ball, but I think they definitely helped us stay in the contest. If there was a stage there where I think we're a long way behind the game, but the boys pulled it back nicely. But I think being here, experiencing the crowds, experiencing the fringe Australian place, I think we definitely need 1, if not 2 teams here in the Big Bash from New Zealand and in the years to come.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. What are the comparisons? What are the initial things that strike you about the competition down under here domestically as opposed to in Australia? Obviously, they got bigger numbers for a start and they're going to get bigger crowds. That's number one.
Yeah, I think just the way they do it at the games. As I said before, it's a family event. My family have been here. They stayed on a week. They enjoyed it so much. And the way they look after the families at the game as well. I think there's so many other activities before the game, their interaction, having celebrities come out. It's almost very baseball, American-like. Fireworks, obviously IPL, being there and experience that. But I think they do those small things well over here. And it just adds to the spectacle on TV as well.
So they've really looked at making it more of an entertainment package, that you don't just come along to watch a game of cricket. Obviously the cricket's the main thing, but there are other things to amuse as well.
Very much so, and I think that's with so much going on today and time being, people being time poor. I think it's just getting people just to come along to the game is not good enough. I think getting them to experience all that other stuff. The lives that people live these days are so busy. There's so many kids here last night. I think that's bodes well for, I guess, the next generation of Australian cricketers, and that's what we need in New Zealand to have these young cricketers come and experience and enjoy themselves, and inevitably want to play cricket and hopefully emulate their stars in the years to come.
I think it's one of the coolest things in any game of cricket when you get a shot and it might be outside the stadium or it might be on the pitch at halftime in a one day or a test match or something, and you actually get to see a whole lot of kids with a bat and ball just playing. I mean, does that still thrill you? It's the way that we all started loving cricket, wasn't it?
Oh, 100%. Last night, my son Johnson, he's 10. He came out of change room, and just the way he looked at Marnus Labuschagne and all enforcement guys and giving their photos and stuff in the change room. You can't put it past it. You'll never forget those moments. And then I sort of thought back to myself and how I felt when the Central Districts team were in Masterton and Mark Greatbatch and Craig Spearman and things just to come along. And they inspired me to want to play cricket first and foremost, but obviously want to play for the Central Districts in New Zealand. So hopefully Delta doesn't want to play for Australia. It was just cool, and I guess as a dad, those type of memories are invaluable, and I'm sure he won't forget.
He's 10 years old. He does know who Dad is and what Dad did, doesn't he? Can he? Well, I mean, at least he can Google. He can YouTube.
Yeah, it was a good question because was my name's Jonty and Mackenzie that yesterday. He goes, did you remember all your dad playing? And Mackenzie said yes, and Jonty, I think, was still at starstruck.
Right.
Didn't really answer it. It was probably maybe because I've been in coaching, he had to say it. He said, "Oh, your dad was a good player." So, it was quite cool. And as I said, as a dad and a parent, and obviously being school holidays, it was nice for them to, be able to experience an Australian summer and experience, the good things that Australia has to offer.
Ross, the difference between cricket here and there, just for people who haven't been to Australia and watched cricket. Cricket in Australia is the number one game. I've got to reiterate this. Rugby is our national sport. Cricket is the national game in Australia. It's not rugby league. I'd say Aussie Rules runs it close. But cricket is the game that everyone plays. They play on the beach. They play in the backyard. It's like us tossing a rugby ball around, isn't it?
Very much so, I think. And just with the walk around the streets, publicity and sign, it is. I think the closest you say is rugby. Rugby in New Zealand is our number one sport, and there's a lot of billboards and a lot of advertising towards that. And that's so just like the cricket here. Everyone knows the domestic players. It's not just the international players. They know the fringe players. Obviously, because it's on TV and on Big Bash, probably plays a part. But, there is a hard-nosed edge to the Australian cricket psyche, and you see that firsthand, and you see that firsthand when you played against them. And that's another reason I think we, would be good if we don't play Australia enough. I don't think.
I agree.
They're about 3 hours away, and we'll play them every couple of years. It doesn't really make sense. So I think, from an international point of view, I think we need to play them more often. They are the best team consistently. And as I said, I'm sure hopefully in time that we can sneak into a Big Bash team, because the only sport and mainstream sport in New Zealand that probably doesn't play in an Australian competition.
You've always felt that as a cricketer, that they're still the number one scalp, always. I just imagine that for rugby players around the world, look, wherever the All Blacks are, in the rankings, it's still, you beat the All Blacks, it's something that you retain forever. I know the Springboks are right alongside us as well, but Australian cricket, that's where I think I would expect most cricketers would actually place them in that sphere.
Yeah, I think so. And I think there's a lot of similarities to the All Blacks and the Australian cricket team. I think their depth. The All Black deck obviously amazing. But then when you go overseas, I think a lot of fringe Australian players are getting these opportunities to play in other leagues around the world where, New Zealand fringe players probably don't. And I'd say that's the same in rugby. Some of the journeyman rugby players who don't necessarily, might have not even played for the All Blacks, still get those contracts overseas. So I think cricket Australia and All Blacks have a similarity when it comes to things like that.
Let us know when you have to go, because you're at the airport at the moment, and obviously you're going to fly, and there's going to be a call at some stage. In terms of the Big Bash, where it sits in international T20 competitions, am I wrong if I say, and maybe it's just because where I live and it's obviously right next door, but the IPL is number one. I think the Big Bash has got to be in there at two, doesn't it?
I think it's probably there in terms of viewership and popularity. It's hard to know what the metric is on how to work that out. I think South Africa are trying to sneak in there with the amount of money they're paying their players. But I think in terms of depth and how the perception of the tournament was, I think it goes with Big Bash. I think probably the 100, South African League and the PSL, they're all, there or thereabouts. But yeah, when it comes to money, some other teams probably play slightly more. But I think in depth and the local players, probably Big Bash takes the cake.
Obviously, your attention's been focused on your own side, as say Colin Munro playing there. But just in terms of the other New Zealanders, other Kiwis that are playing, who's really sort of stood out to you as having had a great tournament?
I think Fennell started off very slowly.
Yeah, it's a bit shaky.
But he's come good in the last few games. And in Melbourne bowled really well. I think probably the standout performer was Lockie Ferguson. I think he's bowled with pace. He's bowled with the new ball. I guess the new Hampton Saudi, Matt Henry, and Trent Bolt he's always, he's always first change and doesn't get the opportunity to bowl with the new ball. But I think seeing him here and the way he's gone about it, it's definitely an option. I think he's still bowling with good pace. His change-up's always been, from 145 down to 120, 125. It's always been good. I'd say he's probably been the standout. And Tim Seifert probably being the other Kiwi who's made a few contributions to the Renegades. And we play the Renegades next game. So, obviously, the New Zealand fans still want Colin and him to make a score, but hopefully we can negate him and hopefully get a win and still stay alive in his squad.
While you're over there, of course, the Indian series was going on, that test series. I mean, does that warm the cockles of your heart, the fact that it is such a monster series, the crowds that turned up to that, the TV viewing figures are through the sky, aren't they? But better than that, the cricket was extraordinary, and it was, I've kind of called it was like watching almost a white ball game most days. It was hard to take your eyes off 6 or 7 hours every single day.
Oh, very much so. I think, we had trainings and it was nice to be in the time zone, but probably didn't watch as much as I would have liked. That's what Test cricket is to me. It's still the ultimate. Two teams going hard. And I think India they weren't that far away. I think Bumrah had an outstanding campaign. Obviously, and Smith scored a lot of runs, and Cummings, just the typical that Cummings just banged away at the length. He was still second leading wicket taker, but probably how well Bumrah bowled probably took that away from him. But India, Australia, and cricket now, I think probably the number one. Obviously, history suggests that Australia and England, the Ashes is the number one. It probably is from a fan point of view, but I think where those two teams have been in the last 10, 15 years, that rivalry's taken that to an end.
And we'll leave you with the Champions Trophy and Lockie Ferguson, of course. Well, it depends on when he arrives. I mean, he could arrive just in time. He could arrive a little late, but as you say, he's obviously, at the peak of his bowling at the moment. Do you like the look of the New Zealand squad, though? Yeah,
I think it's probably where I thought there was many surprises. Duffy obviously bowled well against Sri Lanka, and but there's definitely a shift in the way they're going. I think they're looking at I wouldn't say it's an aging side, but a lot of our players are in their 30s, 31, 32. And it's with New Zealand cricket contracts now, players not taking contracts. They're still giving younger players an opportunity. I think it's a good way to go. Give these guys a go, and hopefully can have a long career. I think getting them in there 28, 29, and playing for 4 or 5 years. Get them in young, and you still need that experience at the other end. But no, I think it's obviously with no bowl plus Saudi, it looks like we might not see them again in the wide ball format. It's like Kane and Conway coming back in after not taking the contract. Obviously, still scoring runs, both of them. It'll be interesting. I think that the top 11 is still pretty settled. Interesting if they can stake in a Will Young somewhere in that line.
I think that in the background, you're probably going to have to board your plane. Really appreciate your time as always, mate. All the very best for this game, and hopefully you can wang your way into that Final Four and let's see what happens. Yeah, let's hope so. Thank you very much for having me. Always a pleasure.
DSPN.